A young wife leaves her house one afternoon to do some quick shopping, but she never comes back. Hours pass, and when she still hasn't returned, her worried husband calls the police. Detectives move fast and trace her phone to a nearby supermarket parking lot. Security cameras show her walking across the lot with her bag in hand, but after that, she seems to vanish. Her car is still parked there, her phone stops working, and no one can explain what happened to her. That moment on camera is the very last time anyone ever saw her alive. For the next several days, police launch a massive search. They comb through fields, rivers, highways, and abandoned buildings. Flyers are handed out, volunteers join the search, and the husband appears on television begging for answers. Many begin to believe she was the victim of a random abduction, but then a suitcase is found at a garbage site, and when detectives open it, the horrifying truth inside points not to a stranger, but to someone much closer to home. She was a young wife living an ordinary life in a quiet neighborhood. On a sunny afternoon, she told her husband she was going out to pick up a few things from the store. It was supposed to be a quick trip, nothing unusual, but when hours passed and she didn't return, everything changed. Her husband grew restless. At first, he thought maybe the traffic was bad, or she had met a friend along the way. But as evening turned to night, he picked up the phone and called the police. His voice sounded shaky, full of panic. His wife was missing. Detectives immediately began their search. They traced her phone to a nearby supermarket parking lot. Security cameras were pulled, and there she was, walking across the lot, carrying her purse, heading toward the store. Everything seemed normal, but that short clip of video became the biggest mystery of all, because after that moment, she was gone. The cameras never showed her leaving. No car driving off, no struggle, no meeting with anyone. It was as if she stepped out of sight and disappeared completely. Her car was still parked where she had left it. The keys were inside her bag, her phone stopped working, and there was no clue about where she went next. Police began searching nearby woods, rivers, and empty buildings. Volunteers joined the hunt, and flyers with her face appeared on every corner. Her husband appeared on local television, crying, begging the public to help. He looked devastated, telling reporters he just wanted his wife back. The community rallied behind him, convinced this was the work of a dangerous stranger. Rumors spread about kidnappers, stalkers, even a serial predator. Workers at a garbage facility found a heavy suitcase that looked out of place. When they lifted it, it felt far too heavy to be normal trash. Suspicious, they called authorities. Detectives arrived and forced it open. What they found inside was so horrifying, it stunned even the most experienced officers. The missing woman's remains were stuffed inside, carefully wrapped and hidden away. But the real shock wasn't just the body, it was the tiny, overlooked details inside that suitcase. Details that suggested this was not the work of a random predator at all, but someone much closer. After the suitcase was discovered, the case shifted from a missing person to a full-blown homicide investigation. Detectives knew they were dealing with someone careful, someone who had tried to hide every clue. The first step was to analyze the suitcase itself. Every detail mattered. Plastic wraps, duct tape, fibers, and even small dirt particles were collected for testing. Forensic experts immediately began their work. The fibers inside the suitcase didn't match anything at the garbage facility. Instead, they matched the carpet from the missing woman's own home. That revelation sent shockwaves through the team. If the crime started at home, it meant someone close to her was involved. Detectives returned to the house with luminol spray to check for cleaned-up blood. Hidden stains appeared in corners and under furniture. Tests confirmed it was the victim's blood. Every piece of evidence was slowly pointing towards someone she knew intimately. Meanwhile, investigators re-examined the supermarket CCTV, this time watching frame by frame. They noticed her husband's car had been in the parking lot hours. A large, heavy-looking bag appeared in the footage, being loaded into the trunk. GPS data from the car confirmed the same route, ending near the garbage facility. Detectives also traced the supplies used to pack the body. The duct tape and plastic wrap were purchased at a local store, and store security cameras showed the husband buying them days before his wife went missing. Small details, like his repeated trips to the store and inconsistent statements, began forming a pattern. Police interviewed neighbors and friends. Everyone described him as devoted and loving. No one suspected he could commit such a crime, but contradictions in his statements combined with forensic evidence gradually cast doubt. Why had he waited hours to call police? Why had he been calm in private but emotional on camera? With every new piece of evidence, detectives narrowed their focus. The investigation became a meticulous puzzle. Fibers, blood traces, CCTV frames, GPS data, and purchase records all needed to fit together. Slowly, the net was closing in. The broader investigation revealed one undeniable truth. This was not a random crime. The killer had intimate knowledge of the victim's schedule, the house, and even the best way to hide evidence. Detectives realized that solving this case meant looking closer to home, and the person everyone trusted the most might be the one responsible. After weeks of painstaking work, detectives finally began to piece the puzzle together. The first breakthrough came from the forensic team. The fibers found in the suitcase were matched to the carpet from the missing woman's own home. This meant the crime hadn't happened somewhere random. It had started in a place she trusted most. The thought sent chills through the team. Next, investigators focused on the blood evidence. Using luminol, faint stains were detected in the bedroom, hidden under the floor and corners. Tests confirmed the blood belonged to the missing woman. For detectives, the implications were clear. Someone had killed her at home and then tried to remove all traces. But who could have done this? They returned to the supermarket CCTV and scrutinized every second of footage. There, in plain sight, was a detail no one had noticed before. Her husband's car had returned to the lot hours after she was last seen. And in the trunk, a heavy bag could be seen being loaded. At first glance, it could have been anything, but detectives knew better. GPS tracking from the car confirmed it. The vehicle had traveled from their home, stopped at the supermarket, and then to the location where the suitcase would later be found. Then came the discovery of the supplies. The duct tape and plastic wrap used to secure the body were traced to a local hardware store. Security footage revealed the husband buying those exact materials only days before his wife disappeared. Each new piece of evidence tightened the noose. Detectives began reviewing his statements. At first, he claimed to have no knowledge of any of this, insisting he was helpless and devastated. But contradictions emerged. Small changes in his story about timelines, trips, and errands. Each lie chipped away at the narrative he had carefully built for the public. Interviews with neighbors and friends painted a different picture than what the evidence suggested. He appeared devoted and loving, but the forensic facts said otherwise. Detectives realized they were closing in on someone who had planned the murder in detail, counting on appearances to shield the truth. By the end of this stage, detectives had the outline of the crime: murder at home, careful disposal, and multiple attempts to cover every trace. The case was no longer just about finding the missing woman. It was about confronting a killer hiding in plain sight. And all signs were starting to point to the person everyone had trusted the most. Detectives were closing in, but they needed more concrete proof to link the husband directly to the crime. As they dug deeper, inconsistencies in his story became impossible to ignore. At first, he said he had no idea what happened that day. Then, when questioned again, small details shifted: the time he left the house, what he claimed to do at the supermarket, and why he returned to certain streets. Every contradiction added weight to the growing suspicion. Detectives also explored possible motives. Financial records revealed mounting debts, a life insurance policy in the wife's name, and recent arguments over money. Friends and neighbors described a seemingly perfect couple, but the evidence painted a different picture. The husband had the opportunity, the knowledge of the house, and a motive strong enough to commit the crime. By combining CCTV, GPS, and purchase records with forensic evidence, detectives began to see the full picture emerge. The carefully constructed facade of grief and innocence was starting to crumble. Every lead, every tiny detail pointed toward the husband. What had once seemed like a random tragedy was now a planned, deliberate act, and the person everyone trusted most was at the center of it all. With the evidence mounting, detectives knew it was time to confront the husband. Early one morning, they arrived at the house. He was sitting calmly in the living room, appearing normal, almost too normal. But the trained eyes of the investigators noticed the tension beneath the surface. They began questioning him about the supermarket CCTV, the GPS data, and the hardware store footage. At first, he denied everything, insisting he had no connection to the crime. He claimed the bag at the supermarket was just groceries, the car trips were routine errands, and the tape and plastic wrap were for home repairs. But detectives remained calm, laying out each detail with precision. The fibers from the suitcase matched his home carpet, the blood found under furniture in the bedroom matched his wife, and his movements that day aligned perfectly with the disposal of the suitcase. Slowly, cracks began to appear in his story. He stumbled over timelines, repeated himself, and contradicted previous statements. The mask of grief he wore for the cameras started to slip. Each question from the detectives chipped away at the facade he had built for weeks. Finally, faced with the overwhelming evidence, he broke. His confession was chilling in its clarity. He admitted to arguing with his wife that afternoon. In a sudden fit of rage, he struck her. Panicking, he wrapped her body in plastic, secured it with duct tape, and placed it in the suitcase he had prepared in advance. He drove to the garbage facility and disposed of her, thinking no one would ever discover the truth. The revelation stunned everyone. The man the community had seen crying on television, the husband they had trusted, was the killer. His careful planning, his performance of grief, and the lies he told to protect himself had nearly succeeded. Outside the home, neighbors and friends struggled to comprehend what had happened. How could someone so close, someone so familiar, hide such a dark secret? The case became a chilling reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous threats come from the people we trust the most. For the detectives, the work didn't end with the confession. Evidence collection, forensics, and the painstaking investigation had ensured justice would be served. But the lingering question remained: how often do appearances deceive, and how often do we overlook the danger hiding in plain sight? This was Mystery Note, bringing you real crime stories that remain as haunting as the questions they leave behind. Subscribe now and never miss the mysteries that still have the power to keep us awake at night.